Back again for another one. It looks like just me and Josh are on, but no, there's somebody else on the line. We have Mr. Ron Bath tonight. How's it going, Ron?
Hey, it's going good. I wish I could have Skyped with y'all, but it looks like that didn't work, so at least we can talk on the phone.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again.
So,
we can do it again. We'll figure it all out.
Yeah, I'll get with some 2-year-old child and he can show me how to do it.
Everybody who hasn't figured out Skype has come back on with Skype, so we have hope.
Yeah, it'll work.
Oh, well, I think I can handle it. I think I'll get it figured out. So,
well, welcome to the show.
I love challenges.
Yeah, man.
Good.
I'll tell you what.
It's good to be on.
Electronics is a challenge for everybody. Basically every single show we've done, we've had at least one technical mishap. So this was just par for the course, man.
Oh, shoot.
It's almost like good luck.
I thought I was the only one.
It's almost good luck at this point.
Actually, the reason we're so late, it was my fault that we're late because I had to restart my computer. It wasn't working, yada, yada, yada. So don't feel bad. So, I met you once, Ron, and I think I can't remember if it was 1988 or 1989. It was somewhere in there at AAA Nationals that were in Taunton, Massachusetts. I don't know if you remember that far back, but I had long hair then. And
I don't know if I remember you, but I remember the tournament because that's the year I won Male Arm Wrestler of the Year.
Yeah,
nice.
You killed people at that event. No, I would be shocked if you remember me. I weighed 165 pounds then, and I think I got like 6th place. So it wasn't like I didn't leave much of an impression.
If you're into 165, I usually didn't know too many people below 200. So it took long enough to get to know all the people in my weight class back then, and follow the lighter weights. So
it's been about that long.
My apologies for not coming up and introducing myself.
Oh, you did. I shook your hand. But like I said, this is like 30
take it all back.
For not remembering.
Take it all back.
Yeah, take it back. I remember you. Perfect.
Oh, yeah. So, anyway, we're super psyched to have you on the show. And I don't know. I think most people know you pretty well, Ron, in the sport, but I don't know if you wanted to talk about how you got into it way back when and, maybe give us a little of your arm wrestling history.
Oh man, that's a long story. We might not have enough time because it's been so long. Considering most of them that are on here probably were either in diapers or haven't even been born yet.
Me.
But the first tournament I ever went to was the fall of 1980. Believe it or not. Went to some local tournaments in Wisconsin before I moved to Georgia. Mm-hmm. And prior to that, I got to see Johnny Walker in Chicago. I took a tour down there with a buddy and saw him. And not realizing in 1985 I'd live in his backyard. And for those that don't know Johnny Walker, he was nicknamed the Iceman. And back in the day, he was probably the baddest under 200-pounder out there.
Oh, for sure.
Actually, I saw him a couple years ago, and he's still looking pretty good in his 60s. But I moved down here to Georgia and met my mentor, Bert Whitfield, and unfortunately he passed to cancer roughly 10 years ago. And the likes of Dave Randall, and we started, they showed me the ropes after meeting them at a small little tournament, and about 2 years after that I won my first nationals. And from there it's just been one thing after another.
Nice. And one name that you brought up there, Bert Whitfield, that's a name that, when I was getting started in the sport, and I started in like 2009, I remember seeing videos of Bert Whitfield. You can still YouTube him now, where Bert Whitfield wins worlds year after year after year, sit down, all that stuff. That guy was incredible. Like super, like the picture of patience and endurance, that guy.
Oh, he had endurance beyond anything. And he also was way ahead of himself as far as technical, because back in the early 80s, even 70s, it was still a lot of mostly hook. They were just starting to practice and understand top roll and leverages a little bit more. It used to be just all power. And he would teach you something. When we were at practice, he would teach one guy how to beat the guy across from him, and then he would whisper something to him to teach him how to beat you again. And just tweaking how you would apply your hand pressure and all that. So I couldn't have been more blessed in the sport to have been able to work out with him the first years of my arm wrestling career, because he probably forgot more than I know.
Mm. Yeah. What did training look like back then?
What's that?
I said, what did your training look like back then? Were you guys just pulling, or were you lifting?
You know, I was more in the labor part of the field in construction, so I didn't really do a whole lot of weight training. Had some real small stuff and a band, you know, but it was really mostly for power, as that's still my forte. If I can't beat you once, I'm just going to have to get stronger. It's not learn how to outplay. It's just I'm going to get stronger than you, and that's still the way I play.
Sure.
There was some weight training, but mostly you depended on that table time. From one day a week to maybe sometimes you'd push in 2 days a week. Other than that, it wasn't anything really designated as far as for pronating and supinating and stuff like that. I think John Brezink was probably doing it, but we didn't have videos back then, because John, like Bert, was way ahead of himself on studying the sport for the angles and the pressure points.
Yeah, Bert seemed to take after, like you said, Brezink and Dave Patton, these guys who were, they were thinking about angles, and you can even see it with Bert setting up in the straps. You're going, this guy knew how to set up better than the straps than a lot of guys do today.
Way back when, yeah.
Oh yeah, he did. And speaking of Dave Patton, him and Dave Patton had wars. I remember seeing the two of them in my first years up in Chicago. I think they pulled for like better than 10 minutes. And it was just an outright brutal battle. Yeah, those two had wars in the first years.
Yeah,
both just legends of the sport.
I just remember watching videos of Bert, and he's sitting there in the center of the table, and it seems like he's not working at all. You know he is, just because you know the sport, but he's sitting there just chewing his gum. Just chewing his gum and looking at this guy. And just like laser eyes burning a hole through this guy's soul. Like, this guy's looking at him every once in a while, looking up and just going, oh no, he's not getting tired. And he has to be a little bit, but it was just so cool to see that. So, even back then.
Yeah. Yeah. The first lesson, one of the first lessons Bert ever taught me was never to show that you're tired. Because if you show that you're confident and you're not tired, even if you are, your opponent, if you're feeling wore out, your opponent's feeling wore out too. And I utilize that almost all the time. There's only basically one time I didn't, and that was pulling Devin Lorette up in Canada. I was picturing, because everybody told me how great a shape he was in, and man, I wasn't in as good a shape as I thought, and I was just dying after the first match up there. And I'm over there, I'm picturing Devin just being all relaxed and calm, only to see a video later, and he was dying too. But,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So the best thing you can do is always show that you're relaxed at the table, the best you can do.
Well, especially
don't let your opponent know you're tiring.
Yeah, and especially at that level where like a percentage or two is the difference between winning and losing. Just that little mental edge of this guy doesn't think, if I just act this certain way, this guy doesn't think I'm tired. That's just enough just to bring you over that hump, between a win and a loss.
Yep. Excellent. If you're pulling somebody of the same caliber and you look across and he's looking fresh and relaxed and you're burning inside, and your mind starts to beat you then. Your mind plays games with you just as much as you do. And you can win and lose by just playing the heads.
That's so true. That's such a great point. I remember Ron Devio, I think you probably know him, Ron. The only guy that he used to be nervous about pulling was Dave Patton back in the day.
I can imagine.
Yeah, he used to trash everybody, but not Dave.
Yeah. Now Dave was a unique character in his own. He would manipulate the starts. He was one of the first that were starting to manipulate the starts and his setups and getting hand position And to him, the sport wasn't all about power, even though he could hold forever, because he used to come down here. Toyota ran some tournaments, and he would come down and pull all 4 weight classes and win them all.
Yeah.
Wow.
And with him, the best compliment I got from him was in my first years was we went down to Miami. I flew down there for the same Toyota, and asked him how many classes he was pulling, and he asked me how many I was, and I told him I was only doing 1, so he was bailing out. I was improving that much. Oh. But then I decided to pull 2. I decided to pull 2 classes, and as soon as I did, he signed up for all 4 of them.
Nice.
Because he knew he had that kind of audacity. He knew what his opponents had and everything else before they pretty much did. So,
and I like the like the term of manipulating the starts too. That's the nice way of saying cheating the start.
Yeah, yeah. We know a few of those guys.
No,
you know. I don't know if I actually even consider, we call it cheating.
Yeah, it's not really.
But
yeah.
When you get to a pro level, is it really cheating, or is it just gaining to whatever advantage you can on your opponent? And there's refs there, and you as another opponent, as their opponent, and if you're at that elite level too, you should be able to recognize what they're doing before they do it.
Absolutely.
If they manage to get a little kink in their wrist or get just up a little bit higher in your hand and you don't say nothing or you don't do nothing, well, you set yourself up, especially, if you've been pulling, at a pro level for a long time.
Yeah, for sure. At a certain level, there's no victims anymore. We do have this thing
No, not really.
There's this thing where you can lift your elbow up and say, no, I'm not doing that. So that's, it's just.
See, that's where your refs are supposed to be calling it.
Well, yeah, yeah. Doesn't always happen though, especially like when it's important. No. Leonard made this point where, for some reason the way we run tournaments, oftentimes the most important matches, everybody's tired. Right. Even the refs are tired when the matches matter the most at the end of the tournament.
100% correct. Yep.
It's an interesting aspect of our sport. But it brings in, that's one of the reasons, Ron, I think you've had such great successes because your endurance is very impressive. So as tournaments go on, even though you may feel tired compared to most of the other people in the tournament, you have a lot left in the gas tank, I think.
I try to. That's always been something I've always had because, even in my first years, it was so many times in my first, say, 5-6 years arm wrestling, I'd lose that first match of a big tournament. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, and then it was like, hey, nothing to lose, just go for it. And next thing I knew, I'd find myself in the quarterfinals or even the finals. Yeah. And because my endurance, and even my guys who practice with me don't like it, because if they're going to get a win, it's going to be early in the practice.
Sure.
As the practice goes on, you're not going to win anymore. But it's good for the young guys because it makes them work a little bit harder.
Absolutely. And you've seen, the WAL format that you did very well in, it, endurance was definitely a benefit. And most people burned out quicker. The only person I think who can give you a run for the money in the endurance department is maybe Devin. But everybody else, I think you'll wear them out.
Yeah, Devin's endurance is good, but his catch and locking of his elbow is definitely a big plus for him.
That's what I was just about to ask you. Do you feel that is more of a lock than endurance?
Yeah. You got to give him credit for both because you still got to be able to hold it. But that locked elbow, I know several people who can get in there. I can't do it. It makes me too nervous and hurts too bad. But people who can get in that position, it does. It's hard to get them out of it once they're there. And just watching Devin, he'll get in there, and then he's very patient when he does hit that spot, and he will just sit and let you make the mistakes. I've watched videos, and it's like I'll just sit there and cuss at myself, knowing the little things that I did wrong or should have did different. But when you're, I think we're about 14 years apart in age, 15 years. I think I do fairly well.
Oh,
I just got to beat him in that split second. I always get him within, an inch or so of the pad.
Yeah.
Can't finish it. Yeah. But
with Devin, it's not just about endurance too. The guy like we were talking about before, the angles and body position, all these things. He's so efficient that once he does stop it, like the amount of energy he's using to hold it off and the amount of energy you're trying to use to finish it is just is different. You know?
Yeah, and he plays that game very well. If he knows he has you, he will let you burn and burn and burn. He's not in for a big win, especially in the format of best of 3 or best of 5. All he wants to do is let you burn. And you know, and pride, you're not going to, or like even the WAL, you know, it's not good for TV if all of a sudden Devin gets you locked in and you just say, oh, to heck with it, I'm going to let him win, and you drop over. That don't look good for anything. You got to keep fighting. But he knows he's going to have you in round 2 or 3 because you used it all. And he's just like with that locked elbow, he can just sit there forever and use little power. Yeah,
that is true. I mean, there's a few of you guys that are just arm wrestlers that everybody wants to watch at all times, and you're one of them. We were watching. We hoped Skype was going to work. We had all these matches that we were going to show with you beating various people in different ways that were super cool. And one that we were going to show is you versus Matt Mask at that tournament with you guys all had the orange shirts on. I remember the name of it.
I think it was Pulling for Chance tournament.
Yeah, Pulling for Chance. That's what it was. That was such a great match.
Oh, yeah.
That was just beautiful to watch.
Yeah, that was a good tournament. I totally enjoyed that tournament because I did not expect to do that well up there. And when I beat Matt, I was surprised because he was climbing fast, and I think maybe I got a little break. Might have caught him a little sleeping, and I was a little more fired up, especially after I beat Chris Chandler. Like you said, as a tournament goes on, I do have a tendency to gain some endurance and power. And by the time me and Matt pulled, I managed to get, once I got him over to my side and got locked in, I felt very comfortable.
Yeah, momentum is such a nice thing, and you know, you get a good win that you didn't really expect early on or something like that, and then you find yourself beating guys that you didn't expect to beat, you know, even later on than that, you know. In that, you know, for some reason, I don't know if you would agree with this, Ron, or not, but sometimes that lower grip, I noticed you gripped him fairly low. You're not capping at all. You know, there's some times when that lower grip gives people trouble these days.
Yeah, because if I grip a little bit lower, I can get a little more back of your hand. And if I cap, I know I don't get as much finger pressure for the hand, and it's easier. Like for Matt, the top roll out, he can actually get a little bit more bite. So I actually feel more comfortable going in that area with him.
Yeah, I think so many people think that when somebody, you want to keep your hand higher in order to protect it, but you know, sometimes you got to come a little lower to make it so, you know, their rotation isn't so devastating, you know. Yep.
Now with Matt, I gotta have a training part. Tim McPherson pulls about the same way with some real heavy top and speed, and until he got hurt a couple years ago, that was my big plus. And he did well preparing me for Matt, because Matt, if you can take Matt's initial hit, because he is explosively fast.
Yes, he is.
Then you can handle well. But wow, that first split second waiting for that go and hope you can catch him. And so far I've been pretty successful, except for the last match in WAL last year. But I had some other little issues. But yeah, he managed to get the win, and he pulled Devin fairly well too. So.
Now, in the at that same tournament when you pulled Chris Chandler, with him you did cap, if memory serves. Is that right?
Yeah, because you want Chris off. You want to try to get more on Chris's top. You don't want to clamp down low with Chris. Yeah, his hand's like a vice. It'll out grip yours in a heartbeat. When I pulled him at UAL up in Chicago, and the first match, I was sort of arrogant, and I just gripped. We both just sort of gripped, ready for a hook. And when he squeezed his fingers, I knew I was in trouble. And it was just ready to go. He took me over. There was no coming back. And I just looked at the ref, and I said, we're going rest grip. And so I managed to get into the rest grip each time. And if you can get out on Chris's hand and get him over and just, burn him out. Chris is another one you don't want to beat right away. If you can get him over to your side of the table and rolled over, you just want him to build those big muscles off of lactic acid and get him in the next couple of rounds.
Strategy. I love it.
Yeah.
Let me get some of these questions.
Something so simple as arm wrestling, and we actually do a lot of thinking about what we're doing.
It's true. It's a cerebral sport at the end of the day. I mean, people, when they see it in the bar, they tend to kind of dismiss it, but then when they start trying it, they realize how difficult it is and how many different types of moves and how much of a difference a quarter-inch makes and all that kind of stuff. So that's probably why, there's only 5,000 or 6,000 of us in this country that take it super seriously, but we mean business,
Yeah.
So
I think almost everybody almost arm wrestles. There's not too many people that have never arm wrestled before. Somebody's either arm wrestled their buddy or something, or across the kitchen table, but they don't take it to that next level.
They don't. So let me ask some of these questions that people are sending in. There's a couple of people checking in from Australia that are very excited about your trip down there.
There you go.
They want to know how your training's. How many people are you pulling down there?
I have no idea.
I know you're pulling this guy.
Everybody. Australia, that's who he's pulling.
Yeah. We're gonna do a couple of we're gonna do some seminars, but the big one's gonna be at the Arnold Classic. I'm gonna pull a right hand super match against Murray McKay, I believe. Left hand, I don't want to murder his last name. Couty, Couti.
Okay,
and that'll be a left hand. And then the next day, I'm going to pull the tournament itself. That one should be fairly interesting because that'll be an unlimited weight. And I'm not sure how big he is, but I know Lars, and I'll murder his last name, Rabukin, is supposed to be there. And that should be an interesting match if I have anything left from the day before. So, and then there's supposed to be a few other guys that should be interesting.
You got to pull him. You got to pull Lars
Australia.
you got to pull Lars like you pulled Jerry. That's what you got to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You gotta,
I've watched a couple of his tapes. He likes to come in with that flop wrist.
Yeah, you need to shove him with that palm. Knife in.
Yeah, let it go the first one, and then go to the straps and try to get him past his shoulder.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one. That'll be a really good one for you.
How's your training going?
I got to make. It's had its ups and downs. I don't think I'm doing too bad. I don't train overly hard, but we have some good practices, and like I'm going to a tournament reffing this week, so I'll pull over there. And basically, when you do it for this long, and at my age, I got to watch. Not saying I'm real old, but I noticed the biggest thing since I hit about upper 40s or so is the fine line between overtraining and not training enough has gotten a lot more refined.
Okay.
Back when you're in your 20s and 30s, you can go 2 weeks without working out, and you'll work out and you're not sore and you can kick ass, or you can work out every day. It don't matter when you're 20 or 30. You can adjust that stuff. Yeah. And the thing is, now where I'm at now, if I take too many days of break, then I get aching, and if I don't take enough, then I get too, so it's the line's gotten a lot finer on my workouts, so it takes a little more finesse in that. So, but I think I'm doing pretty good. I'm not too worried about going down there. I think I'm going to go down and have fun, have a good time, meet some good people, and help promote the sport.
Yeah. There's like 5 guys right now commenting that you have a super match with them down there. So.
All right.
Line them up.
He's coming for everybody.
Line them up. I'm sure I'm going to have a bunch, but it should be fun.
Yeah,
it'll be a good time.
It sounds like it's going to be a really good time. Yeah. They seem to know how. They seem to know how to have guests. Yeah, Australia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard they're very hospitable and like to have a good time. So we'll have a good time and all that. Plus, we'll get some good arm wrestling in.
Nice.
Oh, absolutely. It'll be a blast. John Cervantes just wrote here that Scott Ballinger cleaned up Lars at Arnold's last time. So it's a good sign for you. Yeah. Let's see.
Scott's one of those guys, though. Scott's so strong when he gets where he wants to go, though. People.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I think he's underrated strong when he gets where he wants to go.
He's limited to just getting into that hook, and if you want to play with Scott in the hook, then you're in for a long day. You might get the win, but the odds are they go in his favor quite a bit. Scott, you want to get out on his hand a little bit. You don't even really have to get his hand. You just want to be able to back pressure him and get him stretched out a little bit. As soon as if he adds more to his game, he'll be even more, because he is very powerful.
Yeah, I think people were very shocked at when he gave Devin a pretty good run left-handed, or at least gave him a hard time. And I'm sitting there going, no, does nobody know who Scott Ballinger is? He's strong. He was tough like that when he was 76. He was just tough.
Yeah, he is. And like where Devin doesn't exactly explode into his hit. He tries to catch you. And trying to catch Scott means you're going to let Scott get into his strong spot. So then once he gets there, it's going to take a little bit to get him up out of there.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who he likes to settle in. Once he settles in, he's tough.
Yeah, and he also, if he thinks if he's got a chance for the win, he even gets tougher.
Yep.
If he smells victory on somebody, boy, he's going for it. So he's a true competitor.
Yeah, I mean, it's, someone who's raised in the sport, like, from his father, Bill, who I don't think people understand how good Bill Ballinger was at one point as well.
We need to get them on the show one of these days, the Ballinger clan, you know?
Yeah, Bill was incredible at 65. There's old videos of him at Yukon Jack in Florida, and giving Denny DeBray and Pat and all these guys everything they could handle. Everything.
Yeah, you're mentioning some old names there, but yeah, those guys were all great arm wrestlers. Yeah, and he could pull with them all too.
Speaking of old names, there's another question from Chris Gobby. He wants to know what your fondest memory is of Cleve Dean, seeing as you guys both came from Georgia.
Cleve Dean, oh shoot, probably my first win, but he wasn't in his prime either. It just his massive size. Just knowing the man. We never really pulled a whole lot because of being way out of each other's weight class. We did pull a few times at local tournaments, and I managed to get some wins on him. Once John told me to get out of his hand and go down to his wrist and just try to catch the man. But like I said, he wasn't in his prime the way he was when John beat him. And he's another one. He didn't know no technique. He just depended all on size and power.
Yeah.
So
those are fun videos to watch, though. But you're right. The sport's come a long way since then. Which reminds me, I mean, I know you were very much involved in the WAL stuff. Do you think that they have a chance of recovering? And I'm sure you've heard the rumors about them coming back in a super match format on television again.
They got to invite me first, or it's not going to go anywhere. I haven't got a phone call yet.
Yeah,
hey, WL, where's my phone call? 770-29.
I'll email him your phone number.
Yeah, we'll email your phone number.
Endorsed by Control.
There's been a couple more rumors this week about it. Like they've said
that tidbits.
Go ahead.
The tidbits I've heard about it.
Yep.
I think it stands possibly a fairly good chance. The super match, I think, is where the pro level needs to go.
I agree.
But it's got to be true super match. It's got to be not necessarily number 1 and number 2 all the time, but that somebody in the top 5 or 6 compete and go after it, and have a little ranking system, and then you have other tournaments that try to get people into there somehow. But it sounds like going to that super match deal, which is what the UAL did. But they battled against each other. Unfortunately, one loses. But I've always been a fan of the super match for the pro level instead of just tournaments.
So the latest rumor is that they're going to have an 8-man tournament that's going to be all done in super matches, 1 a week. And they're supposedly going to do it with 3 weight classes instead of 4 that they had last time. And but I don't know. It's like I said, it's all rumors. Nothing's been confirmed yet. But I know that they have reached out to a small number of people. I don't know if they're reaching out to people just to see what people think of the idea, or if it's really going to happen. But I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I'd like to get an invite, but I heard the weight class and it's 210 and up, and that really, for right now, that doesn't really suit very well with me, because there's some super heavyweights I'd like to pull. Unless they keep it a little more refined. But really, it's just, I got to be true to my age, and to pull somebody like Dave Chafee, back in my prime, might have been an interesting match, but or back in the youth. But man, right now, my elbows would ache for a month if I had to. Like that. But
what are you walking around at right
supers? Upper 230s.
Yeah.
Yeah, 235 to 240, depending the time of day.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight to cut. I did hear it was going to be.
You wouldn't see me. You wouldn't see me at 210. No, there's no way I'm going to 210.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing that when we talk about super heavyweights these days, because we'll even go back 10 years ago, where the best guy on the planet, which we can all consider John Brzezinski for quite a while, was a 220-pound man. Do you think that'll ever happen again, where a 220-pound guy can be the best guy on the planet?
Well, when they talk about the best arm wrestlers, it's not always the super heavyweight.
Correct.
Just because the super heavyweight can beat everybody, well, it's due to his size. I think there's guys 210 and 220 that could compete eventually. Rustam Babayev, I think, could compete with quite a few of the super heavyweights.
He's scary,
Did you see he just beat Dmitry Vasiliev? He pulled him like 4 times.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he beat him 4 times. Crazy.
But, for him to have to go up and pull Dave Chafee to claim that he's the best arm wrestler, when I think of best arm wrestlers, I want to see the technicality of them and their endurance and how many weight classes up can they go, especially nowadays, because all classes are a lot deeper than they used to be.
Yeah.
Even John said that. I don't want to, say put words in what he said, but he even made comment that it would be hard for him to repeat because the depths of the classes have gotten so deep. He would still be the greatest, I think, but as far as continue the wins and to that level.
Who's the guy who would be in contention for that left-handed is Oleg Zok. You can make an argument. I mean, who can beat that kid?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Travis if he'd go outside his little box.
Supposedly, supposedly Travis told who was he talking? Oh, Christian. Christian Binney. Yeah, he was talking to Christian. He said, I'll never pull that kid.
Yeah. But there's one thing I will give John Brzezinski credit for that I don't see today anymore. I think, there's a couple. John would pull, and this is what made him possibly the greatest. John would go pull a super match this week, and then next week he'd be at a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And a short time later, it's almost like if John got called up and said, hey, I got somebody over here, we'll beat you, they'd put him on a plane and fly him. Nowadays, too many of these guys want 2 to 3 months to prepare.
Right.
And, and they also, a lot of these elite levels, and I'll get myself in trouble, a lot of them think they're above going to a small tournament and helping promote. To me, I think if it's a local tournament, no matter how great you are, whether you pull it or not, you should be at your small tournaments promoting them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's always a place, even if it's just reffing. I say just reffing like it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Any promoter knows, and it's a huge relief to them if they have an extra ref, because there's never enough.
It is.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it helps bring out other arm wrestlers. Arm wrestlers will show up knowing that, hey, somebody of the top level's coming, even though just to meet them or see them.
Absolutely. Just have a conversation.
Case in point, Michael Todd came to a practice at my house a couple years back. Man, I didn't know we had that many arm wrestlers in Georgia.
Yeah.
And it would probably be the same if I went over to Arkansas or something.
For sure.
If arm wrestlers in the area don't think they're going to ever see that guy again, they're going to go and come to the practice. They'll get a little more motivated. So, I think it's critical for the elites to always promote.
I really agree. And that's actually one thing, if you look back at tournament results, you see people like your name is all over all kinds of tournaments anywhere you look. And I think that's a really important aspect of arm wrestling that you don't see as much anymore. And I don't know if it's WAL's fault or if it's what you just said about arm wrestling changing a little bit, but it seems like people like you, like the newer generation of guys, don't travel as much, like you're saying, to the smaller tournaments, and it's harder to get them to arm wrestle, period, because they want more money, or they want plane tickets, or they want this, or they want that, and so as a result, we have missed having a lot of the matchups that many of us want to see, as you know, and it's unfortunate, and I kind of miss like the old school way it was done.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give cost of living's a lot more tighter today than it used to be. Granted, do any economics, you can see that, but which makes it a little tougher. True. But too many only want to travel, and even if it's across state line, even if it's a 4-hour drive, they won't go if it ain't going to pay them some money or something. Back in my first years, you just went just for the competition and the camaraderie and the hangout.
I agree. All right, well, I got all these questions.
And the after party.
Yeah, and the after party.
Those still happen. It's just they don't ever, they just need to know those still happen.
All right, I got a million
I'd go if they'd be done by 10 o'clock.
All right, I got to get some of these questions in. Let's see here. Mark Games wants to know, how did you do against Virgil Arcerio?
Oh, man.
Never pulled them.
There you go. That's an easy answer.
If I did, I don't remember, but I don't. Back when I knew Virgil and he was pulling, I wouldn't have done any good.
Yeah. So. Do you have an opinion on the super match coming up between Mike Nance and Joe Minix in Alabama this weekend?
I got to go with Joe. He's my man. He's a local boy, so we'll go with Joe.
Fair enough. Do you remember pulling Ronnie Webb back in the day? That's from Mike Dunlap.
Ronnie Webb. Webb.
Ringing a bell at all?
He was a big boy.
Okay, there you go.
He was a big guy. But, I remember him. I don't exactly remember the matches. So that's been a while.
There you go. A lot of people saying, why aren't you coming to New Zealand, too, since you're going to be in Australia? I guess they have more people.
I didn't set up the flight plan.
There you go. Blame the travel agency.
Talk to the travel agency.
Australia's fault. As always, it's Australia's fault. Call those guys up.
Yeah. So, if I could take more time off, I would.
Let me ask you this question, Ron. If you knew what you know now, is there anything you would have done? Like, would you have trained differently when you were younger? Do you feel like, do you have like a formula that you show to new people when they're coming in? Like, a couple tips you would give them, that kind of stuff?
Nothing more than most are already learning. The only thing I would have done different back when I first started that I do now is work more on pronation and supination and different angles. Because back in the first 5 to 10 years, as I said earlier in the interview, is if I couldn't beat you the first match, I was just going to go get stronger. I wasn't going to learn how to apply a different angle to you.
Right.
Where now at least I'm understanding that, because not until probably 10, 15 years ago, did I even start thinking about, man, I got to try to, outplay this guy instead of I'm just going to pull your ass over to the pad. Yeah. So I would definitely teach them more into watching videos, understanding the angles, pressure points, and work total hand and wrist control.
Do you think that there's a little too much emphasis on that stuff nowadays and not enough on power?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I learned last year. I went to that sit-down tournament, and we used to do a lot of sit-down tournaments. Yeah. And I went to that one, and it brought back the memories. And really, I think any club would be beneficial if they put a sit-down table in their workout, because you got to get away from all the technical and all the pulling away from the table, and you actually got to apply a lot more power. And a few of my guys enjoy it just for that fact. And then you go and practice on the stand-up table.
Yeah, I agree. And, I see the style, too, of guys like yourself and John, and who started in wrist wrestling, where you couldn't necessarily pin to the sideways all the time, but you could stand back up and press. And how rare the press is these days, really, and especially where you top row into a press. That's such a rare thing these days. And it seemed like back in those times, it seemed like everybody had one.
Everybody had one to sit down. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys that have no clue how to even get into a press, and they get too nervous about it.
Yeah, it's almost like you see somebody trying to do it, even if it's just out of training, and it almost looks dangerous. And then you see somebody get in the right position in the press, and you're like, oh yeah, that's not dangerous at all. It's almost like people feel nervous about it because they're in the wrong spot, and then if you correct them, they're like, oh yeah, if I actually use my tricep instead of being like outside my shoulder pressing, then it's not a dangerous position at all.
It changes
I think that's the big one. You watch some guys when they try to press, it is their arms outside their shoulder and their shoulder's not behind their hand.
Right.
And that's where it needs to be. You really got to get up high on it and push down on it.
Yeah, and I think ultimately it's a lack of direct side pressure to be able to take your arm and put it inside your shoulder.
Yeah,
but I do think you hit on a point though, John. It's not a position people practice. So like almost everybody learns it awkwardly on their own, and that's an explanation for why people are doing it wrong. I mean, but in a sit-down table, you see it a lot more. Back when I first started arm wrestling in the '80s, not quite as early as you, Ron, but every other tournament was a sit-down. So we all sort of knew how to do that, just because you saw it so much in sit-down. You had to have at least some kind of press.
Yeah. No, sit down. You can't apply all the back pressure and all the top roll stuff. So you can top roll, but it's not as extreme as what you do on a stand-up. So you actually got to stand tight to your arm.
Yeah, so, and it seems like the top roll on a sit-down table is almost more like a post, where it's more bicep-driven than.
It is more like a post. I think that's fair.
Yeah, you still gotta apply a lot more side pressure than you would if you're just topping and dragging them to the far corner. So.
Let's see. What other we got? Mike Nance says he doesn't love you anymore since you.
Oh.
Okay.
So that message delivered. Somebody named Glenn Presley, who is a legend from Tennessee, is watching right now, so he says hi. And then,
hi Glenn. Yeah, that's a name from the past too. I ain't seen him in a long time.
He's still around. Yeah. And Eric Roussin wants to know when was your first win over John Brzenk?
It was Nationals in Atlanta, Georgia. I believe that was 95. No, it was earlier than that. Yeah, I got one win, and the only reason I got the win was John let me get way deep in a hook. He got the first win, and then he let me get into a hook, and I refused to come out of it. And then the second one, of course, John just changed up, and he didn't let me go into a hook. But the biggest thing about the win was it showed me that John wasn't the god, that he was beatable.
Right.
Yeah.
And it took that little bit of a edge off of it for a split second. So.
Yeah, it makes it's attainable all of a sudden. It's not Mount Everest.
Yeah.
It's it's a tall order, but it's one that can be done. Plus, don't downplay it, Ron. Because I can tell you right now, if I get deep inside in a hook with John Brzenk, he's going to pin me. So don't,
Yeah, he's going to pin everybody.
You did okay, Ron.
Seriously. Most people would do everything they could to stay out of there,
That's like going back to the first tournament I went to here in Georgia, Bert Whitfield. Where there was a little tournament up in North Georgia, and it was one of these where everybody signs up. And then a couple of the guys go in a back room and they split it up and they try to keep teammates away from each other. Bert Whitfield, and nobody knew who I was. And Bert Whitfield goes, they knew I was, they said, he's just some big country boy looking thing. And so Bert goes, I'll pull him. So I get up there and here's this 175-pound guy, if that. He's across from me. I'm thinking, oh, cool. All of a sudden I hit into him and I couldn't move him. I couldn't do nothing with him. And I'm looking at my wife, and I'm looking at my kid, and my coworkers, and I'm like, "Holy cow!" And we fought forever. Finally, I got a win on him. I beat him. But the thing is, after that, I went to his practices, and he beat me like the next 20 times in a row. And just for weeks on end, he wouldn't let me get a win.
Yeah.
But yeah. So
175 pounds.
So yeah, things are deceiving.
Yes. Yeah.
What's
that's that? The 175-pound guy, this will be great.
But back then you were pulling around 198 at that time, were you?
Nah, I was right in the low 200s.
Okay, low 200s.
Yeah, I would drop down. They had a 210 class, and I would drop down to that.
All right.
Yeah.
John Cervantes wants to know, what exercises do you feel help top roll get stronger?
That's changed over years. Practice was the first one. And practice, I think, still is. But if you ain't got practice partners, but then you really got to concentrate on where you're applying your finger pressures. And it's during a practice on the table, it's not about winning. It's about taking time to know where your opponent, where your practice partner is putting his pressure and working it. Other than that, what I like to do is I take like a bike inner tube.
Yep.
And I put it up over top my hand, and I put weights on the back side, and I just rotate it. And I noticed the rubber inner tube puts a little bounce in there.
Yeah.
And you just do supinations for quite a while and just work that. And you can take, it's no different than putting a towel or something over your hand. And you can put it down near your thumb one time, and then another time you can put it up more towards your knuckles and come straight back at you. So it's something easier to show than it is to talk on, saying over the phone how to do it. But I think you see a lot of people doing it. So, but other than that, practice with a good training partner.
John Cervantes has a lot of good training partners up in Maine, so I'm sure he can make that happen.
Yeah.
Have you? Did you go? I assume you've been to World Championships.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
you're talking WAF.
Yeah, WAF.
Yeah, and I actually wanted to ask you about 2006 World Championships in England when you tried to win 4 golds.
What's funny is I'm wearing that shirt right now. I went through my closet. I was going through my closet, and I didn't want to promote no certain league or anybody. I said, man, and then I saw this one. I put it on for Team USA. But that was it was obtainable. And honestly, I really think if I'd have used my head a little better, I could have won it, all 4. And because the tournament drags out over so many days, they pulled the over, the Masters or whatever they call them in the WAF, the over 40s, and the right and the left, and then you get like a day off, and then they come back and they pull the lefts one day and then the rights. Well, the rights were the last day, and my first match was Taurus.
Yes.
And me and Taurus had some wars, and right off the get-go, we slip. And we go into the straps, and in the straps, he couldn't move me first match. Basically, it was a hit, and I pulled him right over to the pad, and basically, I was on the A side all the time. And as that tournament went on, my hands started getting compromised, and I started getting tired and fatigued. And he ended up taking first. He came back, and I ended up taking 5th.
Yeah. And
I probably did what I forgot to remember what Bert taught me, and that was not to show fatigue.
Don't look tired.
And and I got the pointer I got at the end I didn't think about either is my arm was plenty strong to finish that day, but I was too bullheaded to go into the straps, and I kept wanting to try to hold on with my fingers. I'm a little bullheaded when it comes to I'm stronger than you, and sometimes that don't always work. Because I think if I would have started slipping and just going into the straps and just arm pulling, I think I would have. There's a good chance I would have finished on top and took 4.
Yeah, and at that time, Taurus was an absolute animal,
monster,
and is one of these guys. One of these guys who people don't really understand how good he was in terms of a top roll. Where John Brezink never beat him outside the strap. He could not beat him without a strap. That's how good this guy's hand was.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a scary individual.
No, he had a great hand and a great top roll and back pressure. That he did.
Yeah, it looked like he had legs sticking out of his shoulders. That's what it looked like. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he had arms. He had the arms almost like Johnny Walker. Massive arms for his body size.
Yeah. Do you see yourself doing any more WAF championships?
I would never count anything out. I don't know about doing, the open class, but say a teammate or somebody qualifies and goes, or if my son decides to get fired up and go, then, I would probably go and pull just so I could go tag along, or depending if it's a country or someplace that I'm really interested in going.
Yeah.
I would probably go and pull.
It's Turkey this year.
Yeah, Turkey would be sort of interesting, but, there might be a few complications for us to go, I gather.
Yeah, I was talking to Engin Terzi and Leonard about it, and they both seem very confident that it's going to work out. So we'll see. I hope so, because I think Turkey is a pretty amazing country, and it'd be great to go.
Yeah, it'd be a shame if we couldn't go.
I think it'll work out.
Yeah. I'd just like to see us go to a WAF with some of our best of the best.
Yeah, well, we're working on it.
It's great to see people. Great seeing people represent, but it'd be nice if those that, if the top levels would go and just go for it one time.
I agree 100%. That's one of the reasons that we started this sponsorship program that John and I are doing with Denise and Leonard and all the other major organizations have joined on, trying to raise money so that we can give money to people traveling over there.
Yeah, I think I saw Bob Brown. Bob Brown's going to assist in something.
Yeah, Bob Brown is willing. Yeah, he said he's going to match up to $5,000. So if we raise $5,000, he'll put another $5,000 in, and that would be specifically for senior class pullers, the guys you're talking about.
Yep.
So
and I think it'd be interesting. Yeah,
I hope so, because I totally agree with you, because I think we do really well in the masters classes. We get a lot of medals, and I've been the last 2 years to compete, primarily in masters, and I think the same thing as you. It's like, man, we have so many people that could contend for a medal in many of those weight classes, and it's disappointing that, for whatever reason, the interest in winning the world title has, fallen off to the wayside to a certain extent. I don't know if it's because of WAL, UAL, whatever, and big money tournaments here, but it just, it's the Olympics of arm wrestling, and it's just like, I think because you've been there, there's really very little that can compare to being up on stage with all of your teammates and everybody wearing the Team USA shirt. It's a very patriotic event.
Oh, it definitely is. It beats the money. The memories of holding that flag up are definitely better than any money you could win in the overall. But, because there's never been any, outside of WAL, winning first place there, that might be sort of you can't say life-changing, maybe your income for the year changing, but it wasn't that great, but we're winning a first at a Worlds and just standing up on that podium. Yeah, it's a great feeling.
Oh.
And it would be fun to go back to again, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we will. It'd be awesome if you came. So, yeah, Nationals are in April in Indiana this year, just so you know.
Okay. Well, at least they're feasible. It's an easy drive to get to Indiana.
Yeah, not bad.
So, no.
So, let me see.
Indiana. What part of Indiana are they? Indianapolis or?
South Bend.
South Bend? Okay.
Yep.
Well, damn. That's damn near Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, but the next couple of years, I think they're going to Poland and Romania, I believe. So Turkey is. I think those are cool countries too. But of those three, the one I would like to see is Turkey. And then they're going back to Bulgaria the year after that, I think. So it's.
Well,
I don't know. And I figure I was going to pick
no
one.
Comment.
Yeah, I know. But anyway. So, all right, I don't know. Let me make sure I got all these questions in, people, because I sent a lot. And
sure.
I missed some of them, but let's see. Here's one. Do you remember pulling a guy? Everybody wants to ask you questions about people who pulled a long time ago. Some guy named Ion.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jan Usescu? Yeah.
Jan Usescu.
He's Romanian.
I don't know. Romanian. Okay.
Yeah. If they're talking about the one time I pulled him at the Nemirov Cup, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I saw that match. Yeah. Oh, I know who he is.
That was pretty good. So, yeah, he's a good arm wrestler, but he was giving up a little weight too. So,
yeah. What did you think of Nemirov?
I like it. Was enjoyable. I would have rather have done it without trying to cut so much weight.
Mm-hmm. Was that 209?
A little fresher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's rough.
And I made the good side of 209. We'll leave it at that. Wink, wink.
Fair enough. It was a long time ago, Ron. It's statute of limitations.
Yeah. But that's rough. That's why I say that at 56, I turned 56 in 2 weeks. There's no way I'd ever drop down to 210. No.
I'll
say the healthy. If whatever it is ain't around the 235, say 250, anything under 250, I'd probably try to pull.
Yep.
But even supers, I'd pull if WAL asks me. I'll go pull just and put up a fight.
Yeah, I definitely think they need to get you in there. I mean, I think the last thing I heard was that the weight class is going to be 215 and up, 165, 215, and then 215 and up, which is... I mean,
215 would be attainable. The only thing about 215 is it would be the same dilemma. Todd Hutchings has a lot less to lose to get to 215. At 215, he's a beast, and me, I would be a shriveled up old man. And then there's a few other guys. There's a few other guys that always drop to 198. You know, if you keep that 15 pounds on them, they're a lot stronger.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So,
what do you think about weight cutting in the sport in terms of, you know, performance and overall health? Do you think it's something that should stick around, or something we should try to kind of solve?
Oh, I think it sticks around. Depends on the armor on the person.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had all these methods back in the day. I went to Satin Star for 3 weeks.
Right.
Trying to get down to 210. I'd have just waited till the week before and overdosed on water and then dehydrate in the last 24. You know,
it's a lot easier.
I've done that a couple of times.
A lot smaller suffering window there.
Oh, yeah, and then you prepare to rehydrate. You have your room ready to rehydrate right after.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. The last couple of times I dropped to 2 1/4. Oh, yeah, it was nothing. As long as I was about in the low 230s the day before, I didn't even worry about it.
Yep.
I knew I'd make weight. And then get back in that room and soak in the tub and eat and drink.
Yeah, you read all these methods on, people telling you water load and do all this stuff, and you look at it and you read it and you go, no way this works. There's no way. Yeah. And then you do it and you're like, holy shit, I'm so much lighter than I was.
Yeah.
It's actually working.
It works.
It's like melting off.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's all about the timing too, because if you start it too early, your body will react in a different method than it did. If you got to have your timing right down. Yep. Matter of fact, for people who do decide they're going to try it for a tournament, what they need to do is months ahead of time, try it once just for kicks and giggles, and so they can get it refined a little bit before tournament day.
Yeah, just to have an idea how much will drop at what speed and all that. Yeah, because everybody's a little different.
Yeah,
some people drop so fast, and some people it seems like they just hold on to everything.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yep.
Ron Klumba used to hate me because I'd get on a plane, I'd be 179 pounds. He'd be 176.2 pounds. We'd both weigh in at 160. He'd be 176 on the dot 10 hours later, and I'd be like 174. And he's like, what the hell? I've been with you all day. We didn't do anything different. He hated me.
Yeah.
It would take him 10 hours to drop 0.2 pounds. I'd drop 5.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, your bodies just react totally different. You got to know your body.
Yeah,
that's right. That's 100% right. That's good advice. Is there anybody that you have in mind for either like a revenge type super match or just someone that you're interested in pulling this year after Australia? I mean,
nah, I'm gonna go pull Mike Aiello at Dave Morocco's tournament. I guess in May.
Yeah,
that
actually
should be fun.
Dave's watching right now, so he
I'm gonna make sure
that.
I'm going to start doing my crunches. I want my six-pack to look good.
Yeah, dude. We need to see shredded obliques. We need to see it all.
Yeah. We need a spray tan.
And then I'll rip my shirt out the same time as Dave, and I'll put mine back on. It'll be like Chicago when we were up in Chicago. When I was pulling Chris Chandler the night before, we did an official weigh-in. All right, and it was a big introduction and all this. Well, golly, I'm weighing in next to Chris Chandler, who's already prepping for bodybuilding. And then they want us to take our shirt off and all that and flex. I'm like, are you kidding me? I look good, but there's no way I'm flexing next to that.
Exactly.
You got to know your competition.
Yeah. As Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations.
That right there, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike Aiello.
I look good in
the spray tan contest for sure.
So, yeah, I look good in the bathroom mirror, but I ain't gonna stand next to Chris Chandler and flex. That's for sure.
There's different levels, you know what I mean? There's levels to everything.
You got it.
Dave Morocco's watching right now. He just posted that the Ron Bath Mike Aiello match is going to be on May 5th for anybody who wants to go and see it in person.
That's going to be a great tournament to begin this period. There's some great matches there.
He's putting together a pretty good show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks awesome. Let's see. There's 1 million people that are just checking in to say hi, so you can read the comments after and check in with all those folks. I think think I'm getting most of the questions in here. What did we miss, John? Anything that was supposed to bring up?
I don't think so.
So when part 2 comes up, Ron, and we figure out the Skype thing, we can go over all kinds of techniques.
I'll have the Skype thing figured out. Yeah.
Well, we had Rob Vigin on. I think he's been on once or twice, and I think it wasn't until either the second or third time he came on that he figured out the Skype. So don't feel bad.
I'll get Skype figured out. You know, that's a little old. I asked my son about that, and he was like, he looked at me like, "That's old school, Dad." We don't Skype no more. He said when I used to have my account, I was like, "Oh, you don't do it no more?" No, I don't do it no more.
How is he doing anyway? Is he still pulling or?
Oh, that was my younger son. Ryan still pulls. He's going to Alabama this weekend and pulling.
Oh, good.
Oh, cool.
If he would just notch up the training, he would do very well. But, you know, I give him all the respect in the world. He does it. And he told me one time, he says he likes arm wrestling, but, you know, there's that how far I want to work for it. So he just enjoys doing the training he does and competing at the level he does. But if he would ever decide to take it real serious and start adding a day or two more, I think his potential could be pretty good.
He's got
he's already
genetics.
What's that?
He's got the genetics.
Yeah. So, but that's one thing you don't put. You know, when it comes to your kids, they do what they do, and you only encourage. So,
well, that's pretty. And to be honest with you, it's pretty admirable too to have somebody who can just look at you and say, "No, I really enjoy this for what it is." Like I'm not. Like, you know, it gets tough on, you know, if you really want that.
In this sport.
Yeah, if you want that top spot and you want that elite spot and you're that kind of person, it's like almost to the point sometimes where you're like, I wish I could just let this thing go for a second, but I can't. So it's really admirable for someone just to say, you know, I enjoy it at this level and I really, truly enjoy it, you know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. No. Yep, he does very well for what he does, so.
Nice.
Yep.
BJ Fokakis is talking about the Alabama tournament. Are you pulling at that too, or just your son?
Currently, I'm just planning the ref.
There you go.
But if BJ wants to pull, we'll pull.
There you go, BJ. That'll be a good match too. Hope there's live stream. That's one thing, we got to do live stream at all these events. Man. There's all these matches happening all around the country, and we miss so many of them. We got to figure that out.
Yeah, we don't have Gary Roberts running around filming stuff anymore.
I know, that's right. Gary Roberts.
Yeah, but there again, it's a notch up. Gary Roberts always had to film it and then show it days later.
It's true.
Yeah. We can show it live.
Live.
So.
Yeah. Well, I think I got all these questions in. I'm going to save these technique ones for part 2 when we do it with video because I think they'll be a lot easier to answer. But all right. Ron, this has been a true pleasure for us, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot, and you know, thanks very much for spending some time with us.
I loved it.
Awesome.
Yep. I'll get that Skype thing figured out, and we'll do the next one soon. Maybe when I get back from Australia and discuss my trip.
That would be awesome.
That sounds perfect, Ron. Thank you so much for coming on.
All right.
All right.
All right. You guys take care, and we'll look forward to the next one.
All right, brother.
Got it.
Peace.
Good night.
All right. Have a good